point where the odds of us driving this car home tomorrow are 5% max.
They're not
good. It doesn't matter.
Today, Paul and I are actually, according to Paul's notes, driving to Atlanta to pick up a 37-year-old Scirocco. We're driving to Atlanta to pick up a Scirocco?
We are. And we're gonna then drive it to Florida and put a VR6 in it.
This sounds like one of those things that's like, it's a really good idea till you do it, and then it just turns out to be the worst. All right, so yes, we are actually driving to Atlanta to pick up this Scirocco, and then we're heading on to Florida. Now, that doesn't make any sense at all why the heck you would do that, so let me fill you in on how we got here. So initially, we found a Mark II in Florida that was actually in a movie. So Paul and I had been talking about doing a road trip engine swap for quite some time. Again, dumb idea, I'm sure, but we wanted to pick up this car. It had some cool story behind it because it was in a movie, drive to Florida, engine swap it, and roll it home.
For the engine, we're going to be using a 24-valve VR6 from a Mark IV Jetta paired with a 5-speed manual transmission. We tore down the engine to do chains and found out that it was in way worse condition than we expected. A trip to the machine shop and a slew of new parts were needed to make the engine right. For the install, we're going to be using a Eurowise VR6 engine swap kit, a BFI clutch, and an engine wiring harness from TDC Shop. We shot about 7 full days of footage during this build. Be sure to check out the multiple episode series that Paul put out. I'll be sure to link that down in the description.
Now, during the process of getting the engine ready and everything sent down to Florida, the guy that had the Mark II, despite telling us he wouldn't and not taking a deposit, sold the Mark II out from under us. So that left us scrambling with an engine in Florida, having to find another car.
So I found a car in Atlanta, Mark II Scirocco, drove down, picked it up, and then dropped it off at a shop right 4 miles from where it was found, and that's where we're going to go pick it up at a shop called Eurowise. They have a bunch of shops in the Atlanta area. The car doesn't run right now.
Paul got a call yesterday from Eurowise saying that the Scirocco wouldn't start, of course, and they diagnosed it as a bad fuel pump. So hopefully that's all it is. We're gonna drive down there, we're going to replace the fuel pump, and then we're gonna head down onto Florida, where our engine and transmission and all the other goodies should be right now. It's gonna be pretty interesting, so buckle up, and I'll see you when we get to Atlanta. Well, the tires are little.
I assume they're dry rotted. I actually didn't look at them.
It's better than the Mark II that we initially were gonna get. Almost promised that. Is that gray seats that are now brown? Or is it just the light? Genuine VW parts in your new VW. That's one reason why it runs like a new VW. Yeah, this is fresh. Check this out, 1984 Scirocco. Here's our CIS. You can see all the fuel goodies over here. I'm looking at this, and no way is our VR gonna fit with this factory fan and radiator setup, so we're gonna have to find another solution for that. I mean, clearly the paint is 30-something years old. It looks like, really though, it'll probably clean up and buff out
good
really
detail.
well.
Yeah, so my hope is a good detailer will actually be able to push this and pull the shine back out of it, and maybe make this original paint look nice again. It's maybe wishful thinking, but that's what I'm wishing for. And
let me pause and backtrack. I said we're rocking on 14s.
13s.
They are actually 13. So my B. So pretty much zero chance of ever being able to bleed those brakes, because that will surely be seized.
they'll snap right off.
So a new wheel cylinder is in order, or rear disc conversion.
Yikes.
Good night. Okay, well,
That's the cover for the fuel pump.
nothing to do but to do.
Okay.
Here we go. There we go. Oh god.
Oh god. Oh god.
It juiced me. Okay, so we got the old fuel pump out. Paul's working on getting the new fuel pump in. That should start the car, and hopefully that's all we find. If we find more, we're in a dilly of a pickle. So wish us luck. Or if you hate everything, including us, don't wish us luck. All right, here we go. Fire in the hole. Yeah. trouble. Woo! Okay, so I gotta say, Paul did a pretty good job buying this car kind of on a whim since our other one fell through. What are your overall thoughts on this thing?
So, I would say overall, considering it was sight unseen, I'm pretty happy with it. Inside, I think the one thing that is most important to me is everything is here because it's mostly original and unmodified. And the thing that happens with old cars like this is you can't get replacement stuff.
Yep.
So if it's here, at least we know what's going on and we can deal with it accordingly. And most of it's in pretty good shape, I would say. Obviously, the fabric's kind of crusty and gross and some other stuff. And we're putting a new engine in anyway, which is all, that stuff's terrible. So most of the stuff that's horrible in this car, we're getting rid of.
Also, I will say my favorite part is two things. One, the tape player is still in here. Two, there is a ton of change in the cup holder change thingy. So that's really awesome. We're already making money on this.
We're getting paid, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, boy. And let's face it, the ladies love a 1984 Fabrication.
We're not gonna, oh Jesus. Okay.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Well, I think we should get out of the car and
Yeah.
turn it on and let it run.
Yeah.
I think this hasn't been on in a while.
Oh my God. So keep going. Oh no, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no,
That's not gonna get it done. So Paul, what happened back there?
Well, see, what happened was we had stopped at a light and we went to get started and I thought I was in first, but I wasn't in first, but then I couldn't find first. So we continued to stall a couple times. Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby.
Second gear.
Now, it's not that Paul doesn't know how to drive. This Scirocco has some pretty worn out shifter bushings, which makes finding gears really challenging.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
We're in fifth gear cruising, 75 miles an hour, 4,000 RPM. We're rolling.
Woo! Okay, so it's day 2 or morning 1, I'm not really sure. I think we drove about 450 miles yesterday. Largely, somehow, the Scirocco was problem-free. Paul has mastered driving with the floppity shifter. We have about 120 or so miles left to go before we get to Jamie's shop. Then we are gonna get mad busy on this one.
Here we are. Elite Motorworks. Oh my goodness.
Coming in hot. Coming in
geez.
hot.
All right, the guys are pulling up now.
We made it. Okay, we actually made it. Surprisingly, the journey was far less problematic than I expected, especially when we started out with a dead fuel pump. The car drives super good for being so old, and at 80 miles an hour, it's really not too bad at all. The shifter was really the main component, and a couple of rough starts in the morning. So we have the original 1.8 in the car now. This is all gonna be coming out, replaced with the VR6, 24 valve VR6, which will be really, really cool. And the engine bay is gonna look amazing when we're done. Paul and Jamie are inside the car right now, getting some interior taken out so that we can get the car actually cleaned up a little bit. Also playing around on TikTok, of course. This is what managers do. That's Jamie over there. This is his shop. He was nice enough to hoard some parts for us, let us come down and hang out with him and do this swap here. So that's been really cool. 20-year-old tires, 13-inch wheels, absolutely crazy on this old Mark 1 stuff. So we have a pile of interior stuff over here. We have our engine on a pallet over there. Next up, we got to get the engine out, unpacked, lay everything out. So let's get to work.
I mean, basically, there's like one bolt holding this thing on, and he's trying to
get it out.
We're on the last bolt, of course, the last bolt for getting the whole engine and transmission assembly. And unfortunately, this bolt goes through a mount and then bolts to a captive washer nut on the body of the car. And that seized together, and it's a really tight spot, so go well, we can pull the engine out, and we then can deal with that mount, at least in the engine bay, without the engine just sitting there, so.
And boom.
And then you drop the whole part straight on the ground and make a giant mess.
There we go. Yahtzee.
We finally got the engine out! Mostly, kind of.
Now, with the engine out, Paul, Jamie, and I can game plan our engine installation. We also pushed the car outside, pressure washed and cleaned up the engine bay so it'll be nice and dry and ready for the engine in the morning. Or really, like 4 hours from now.
All right. Well, it's day 2. Obviously, we have no engine in our car, which is a pretty huge deal. I think yesterday was about a 7 out of 10 success rate, minus the one bolt that we had an issue with. And got some wiring taken care of and moved to the side. A lot of this is probably going to end up going also. The thing that we need to be hyper aware of, and really like an early step of the day, is dealing with the radiator and fan setup. In order for that VR6 to fit right, our radiator has to push even more forward. So we need to handle that situation first, also our fan setup and how that's going to be wired as well. So, because if today goes bad, we are toast, and we're renting a trailer and dragging this thing home. Or Paul and I are flying back, and our cameraman Nate's on his own. So while Paul's working on whatever he's working on the actual car, Jamie and I are going to go through and unbox all of the stuff that we have and lay it out so that we can have it ready to go, and also to just double check and make sure that we at least know the things that we forgot. So we have everything laid out in roughly the order that we're going to need it. Radiator, front support, fans, all that stuff has to go in. Then we really do need to have the shifter and shifter box at least at the ready, preferably installed before we go to the next step. Our axles, of course, are actually not in the right order. We have new control arms, and as we move back, we have our wiring harness and ECM, and then we have our new coilovers and a couple of small piles of parts that we know we're going to need, like fuel line and cap-offs and some extra fasteners and stuff like that too. I'm going to test fit our downpipe, which will bolt up here and here. These are the 2 header connections behind a heat shield. You can't really see it. I just want to test fit it and make sure that it's the right one. We won't know, obviously, fitment in the car until it's in there, but at least we can be sure that it fits into the headers from this 24 valve VR. Hey, you came over here, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I'm looking for paint that I seem to have
Which
missed.
paint?
The epoxy.
So Paul comes over, and he has this look on his face of slight disappointment and distraughtitude, and that makes me nervous, because now I just feel like anytime either one of us stops working, it's going to be bad news, as he's looking at me way over there. And with all the like tiny little hiccups adding up to a huge time suck, we really cannot afford just about anything else to go wrong. Otherwise, we're gonna be screwed. We'll be screwed. Hey, I'm hearing a lot of yapping over there, not a lot of working. We got stuff to do. Is it break time?
It's not.
Union?
I'm TikToking and listening at the same time.
So if we don't get this done, it's because of TikTok. Just so you know. All right, so we got our coilovers laid out here. We got new strut tower mounts for the fronts. These are the fronts, and then these are the rears. I actually don't remember if we got new bushings for the rears, so we may, for now anyway, have to reuse some of that old stuff, but we'll just make do with what we got. All right, so Paul's got, this is actually the factory Scirocco radiator that sits in the car this way, and it sits on these pins. Now, what that does is that puts our radiator inlet and outlet on the passenger side. On the VR, it actually needs to be on the driver's side. So what we're probably gonna end up doing is mounting it this way and maybe just putting some foam down on the bottom or something so it's not vibrating and rubbing on the this front support brace here. But as you can see, this is a tiny radiator. I would actually like to see a radiator with about another 6 inches of cooling surface.
Yeah.
So what I was talking about is taking something like this and setting it on there so that at least with the vibration of the engine, the radiator, and the car itself, this plastic isn't rubbing on the metal of the car. This gives it a little bit more isolation. And vibration from the engine in the car really is very detrimental to a radiator, especially one that's old with old plastic. That's why if you replace your radiator, you always want to replace your radiator mounts too. This is some vacuum line that it's all grubby compared to what the new line that I just put on there. It's one of those things where this is going to be completely buried, so there's no point in not replacing this kind of stuff, because this will lead to a bad day, huge vacuum leak, and if we can pre-solve problems, I like to pre-solve problems.
If there was a problem,
Yo,
he'll solve it.
Tom Cruise will precog solve it.
The fact that you prevent it from happening doesn't change the fact that it was going to happen.
Okay, so we have this giant crane, which is really, really cool. So we're gonna use that to lift the engine all the way up. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna dip the transmission side down and kind of swing it in, pull it up, and bolt it up. And hopefully, hopefully that does it. This is gonna be cool. It'll be good. I'm excited. Back towards the car more.
Yep.
Back.
Bit,
Right,
stop.
about there. So it's up, down, and then like an emergency stop. That's it.
Okay. Look at where we're at, though. We can clear this.
That might work.
Okay, so what happens if you're there and I pivot this?
That helps, but the fans
Am I
are...
crushing that sensor?
You're close.
One more, one more, one more.
So something's hanging up. Something's hanging up.
Watch your fingers. Jamie.
There we
It's
go.
coming your
It's
way.
about to go in.
Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. All right, there we go.
Okay.
We're in.
That freed up a ton of room
All right.
on my side.
Let's keep going then.
Oh, that's it.
There we go.
I liked that.
All good. All right.
Don't come too far back though. 'Cause...
All right, we are that close to getting this bolted in. Paul's got a punch on that side holding the mount in place. We're trying to get this side up. The problem is we're pulling up on the engine and it's lifting the whole car off the lift. So that's problematic, but I think some more jiggle, jiggle, wiggle, wiggle, some pumpy, pumpy from Jamie, and some supervision from Paul, and we're gonna be good to go.
I'm a supervisor. Yeah, go up just a tad. All right, stop right there. All right, we're in.
That went in real nice. Yeah, I'm good.
See that, guys?
I'm shredded.
Piece of cake.
Okay, our engine is in. Finally, I gotta say that was a lot tighter of a squeeze than I really expected it to be, but after a lot of finagling and moving things around and pry here and wiggle there, we finally got it in. You're only seeing a brief portion of how long that actually took us to do. What we also had to take into account and do is tip the engine with the transmission side really, really low and swing it on in. We ran into issues with the throttle body clearance, the secondary air valve, the combi valve clearance, the brake master cylinder clearance, the mount clearance on the passenger side and the driver's side. We ended up having to take back off the front mount and the rear mount that we already installed, and hopefully those won't be a problem going back in. Our fan clearance was tight. Overall, this is just an insanely tight fitting engine. A lot of times stuff like this is a lot more work than you might think it is, but all that aside, we got it in, left mount, right mount. We're gonna put the front and rear mount in next and get the engine fully secured and then start poking through all the rest of the crazy things that we gotta do left, like harness, like clutch cable, pedal, all that kind of stuff. So still got a long night ahead, but this is a huge victory moment and these guys were awesome. So yeah. Now it is time to stop celebrating and start workering.
Yeah.
I like the enthusiasm.
Well,
Paul's a dodo head.
Paul's dodo head, and we're getting the shifter box sort of test fit. Odds are we're gonna have to cut the pass through for the shifter out a little bit because the other opening was pretty narrow. I built a template to where I initially thought it was gonna go, but we wanna get the cables installed on the transmission so that we know exactly our distance from the trans to where the shifter is gonna mount. Then I'll make sure that we're lined up, drill some holes, probably cut the body a little bit, and yeah, mount the shifter up. So in the next like hour or two, the most difficult things I think we're gonna run into, one is gonna be this, because we're gonna have to cut the body, and two, the clutch cable I'm a little concerned about, because if I remember right, we actually have to modify the pass-through for the cable in order to get it to fit properly. So there's still some fabrication-like action that needs to happen. Also, fitting the front engine mount, gonna be a bit of a challenge too.
Better to be safe than sorry. So he's got sparks flying, he's got carpet in the car. We've got this ready to go.
Okay, so Charles right now is gonna go try to remove the portion where the clutch cable comes through the firewall. He actually has to break it. We have to trim some of it off to allow that cable to get through so that it'll come out. And so we have a clutch cable.
Of course, it would be completely awesome if we got the brake booster and the master cylinder and all this crud out of the way to do this. However, based on the condition of the brakes and the lines, if we were to take all this off, we would have to bleed the brakes, right? And we're worried about some of this rust and just overall sadness on not only here, but on each individual wheel. And the last thing that Paul and I want to deal with is having a brake line fail that then we have to deal with, because that is not something we could put a Band-Aid on and fix it when we get home. That has to be perfect before this car rolls out the back door. Okay, so Paul and Jamie are putting the final touches on all the wiring that we need to have the engine to do a first start. We'll crank it to get some oil pressure, and then we'll go ahead and try and fire it. We're leaving the fuel pump disconnected for just a couple minutes. Obviously, nothing is in its proper place, but we want to make sure that it starts and we don't have any serious issues before we go tucking that all into its proper home. And Paul is really enjoying himself over there. So cross your fingers. I am very nervous. Paul is much more coup de la than I am. So
We're ready to roll?
yeah, do it.
All right.
I like that.
Why? What was that noise though?
It's probably the start.
Yeah, we got a problem.
All right, let's do this. Stop.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty terrible right about this minute. After several attempts to start the car, it didn't happen. We installed a new battery because we did have a battery that was marginal. We added some wires and some jumper wires just to eliminate all other possibilities of it being a wiring issue. We also rotated the engine around to make sure that it wasn't something mechanical from when we redid the engine or this unknown transmission that we had. What we had going on is a crank attempt, very, very slow, and then a stop starter. I think a couple of times we saw some smoke.
Go!
So we narrowed it down to the starter at this point, which is unfortunate because it is a brand new starter. So it's late, it's like 1:30 in the morning. We're calling it for tonight. We're gonna clean up and just set everything where it is. We got a starter ready for tomorrow morning, and we're gonna just cross our fingers that that is what it is, and it's not something else, because if it's something else, I think we're toast, and that makes me nervous. So I'm gonna go and take a shower, and we will try again tomorrow. This is Paul.
Bye.
He's sad too.
Sad.
Jamie's less sad, but he's dirty.
We're all sad.
Sad panda. Okay, so we're still waiting on our starter that we diagnosed last night, not turning the engine over fast enough to actually start. We ran into a bunch of issues with the fuel system and leaks, so we ended up going way further back into the fuel system near the pump than we planned on. Now, Neil and Paul and Jamie are getting the exhaust straight so we can weld the flange onto the cat, onto the downpipe. Not an ideal situation, and probably a system that's going to get replaced at some point, but this is a get us home kind of situation. So another one of those like critical moments that, I guess worst case scenario, we put some headphones on and we ride with a open downpipe with a turn down for what? While these guys are working on the ever collapsing fuel system, I have the axles, some new control arms, some bushings, and yeah, some hardware, and these giant boy washers that actually have to go on our axle between the CV joint here and the flange. So I'll slide that washer on and then put this back through the hub. These are stage 5 race car axles. 1.5 million, like little tiny things, but every single one of them has to be done, otherwise I'm sad.
This is starter number 2. This is a less reputable starter than our last starter, but our last starter was bad. So, okay, hold on, because it wasn't lining up.
I mean, it's clocked all stupid.
It seems like it might be the wrong starter.
Oh my god.
All right, wrong starter.
Are you kidding me?
Well, we got our next day starter, or same day starter, and as you can see, they are not even close in size. The clocking is totally different. So yeah, this one did not fit in any capacity. So the only thing that makes sense to do is to keep working as if we're gonna have a starter magically appear out of thin air and go that route, because the alternative is we stop. Out of all the low moments up until this point, this might be the lowest moment. So
we are almost certain to not meet our deadline of leaving tomorrow morning.
Oh, no chance.
There's almost
No
zero
chance.
chance. We are hoping to maybe be out of here by midday tomorrow, I would say, and
Yeah.
maybe that might even be ambitious.
I think that's super ambitious. We're, as of right now, my initial goal was to have this car running on the ground and aligned and us wrapping it up. Fine details was my expectation
Right now.
of that 5
Right now.
p.m. on our day 2.5. Or
We
day
still have
3,
no
whatever.
seats,
No seats, no starter.
no starter, no ability to start or even know if it's going to start.
Wiring to clean up, fuel pump to finalize, pedal to finalize, the hood's off.
Alignment.
We got wires to run in through the cab into the cabin. I mean, I feel like the list goes on.
The list just feels too long. So you're probably going to see mostly us just running around like a bunch of idiots.
They would see us being idiots no matter
We're
what.
usually idiots.
But we're going to be running. That'll be the difference.
So here we go.
We got a starter!
Woo!
Hey, starter! It's been triple tested. This better work.
Okay, we have a Startron.
Go for it.
Moment of truth.
Yes!
Yes.
Yeah, see,
So-
this is the problem with stuff like this. You have like the big moments of excitement. The car cranks and starts. The engine's in and bolted in, but the devil's in the details, and that's the kind of stuff that leaves you stranded on the side of the road. Boy, imagine where we would be if we had a starter that worked yesterday mid-afternoon.
This would have been
Mofo.
We probably wasted almost 3 hours total with all the starter bullshit. All right, hold on.
Cylinder 6.
Still dead miss.
Here's our potential problems for cylinder 6, essentially dead misfire. Mechanical problem, electrical problem with the coil, fuel injector, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so while compression may not be perfect, it's good enough that it shouldn't dead miss like that. We swapped coils. I think we need to handle this injector. Do you want me to just pull this manifold?
That's basically what we gotta do.
Yep. We're at the point where the odds of us driving this car home tomorrow are 5% max.
You're not
so, it doesn't matter. To just be blunt, it was a miracle that we were able to get the manifold out. I love that we were able to confirm the suspicion of a bad injector.
Yep.
Regardless, we would have had to do this anyway, whether we did this confirmation test or not. So while I'm super pissed off that we have a bad injector, I'm thankful that we are just another bridge crossed. This is why it was so damn important to get this stupid engine running in the shop. 3 weeks ago, before we sent it down here, we would have been able to fix all this stuff. The coolant leak, the injector, all the other things that we've had go on, the starter. We would have known, we would have fixed it, we would have dropped it in, and we would have had this car running days ago instead of now, midnight at the last day. We would have known at the shop, building the stupid thing. And
We didn't do that because we're dumb.
Well, that was not our fault.
Timing was
That
a problem.
there were
We had a lot of barriers.
But look, here's the bright side. We got a junkyard not far down the street. We can get all the injectors we want. We'll slap it in, we'll start it up, and we'll go from there.
Day 4. We were supposed to be leaving this morning. As you can see, I have pretty red eyes. Charles is yawning currently. The bad injector was a pretty big problem for us last night. Otherwise, we would be in pretty good shape to be leaving today, or at least very nearing leaving. And now we have to try to go to a junkyard and pick one up. So
Yay.
that's not exciting.
What's going on?
All right, so at the junkyard, trying to round up where the heck this VR6 Jetta is. It is not this one. Look what I found. We can bring Paula tape back.
Oh, hell yeah!
For the car. Found our Jetta. The engine is there. The manifold is on. Let's get some injectors. Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
It's all there.
Yeah, this manifold looks better than ours.
This manifold does look better than ours. Very happy I am right now. Obviously, this is not the most ideal situation. So obviously we need the injector, and we're gonna have to transfer over our injector seals. It's not a huge deal. I'm gonna also take the injector retainer clips. Ours were a little wonky, but yeah, we may not need them, but look, we cannot afford to come back. We don't have the time. So any possible thing that we're gonna need, I'm gonna get, and if we don't end up using it, we'll have extra for next time. All right, so we have one for sure. An injector that's a little dirty is gonna be better than one that's dead. All right, here's two. Here's our second one. You see the seal is all sad. There's three, okay. There we go, okay. We got three. I hear Stance makes some dance. We hit the damn jackpot on this one.
Okay, so the bumpers on this thing looked really bad. So what I'm doing is a torch technique that I like to use on a bumper. You heat it up and it turns it black. It actually looks really nice. So here's what I've done so far, and here's the before and after. You can tell it's a huge difference.
Okay, so obviously we're back. We have our 3 injectors that I got from Junkyard. I'm just gonna test them real quick and make sure that they click. You can actually hear this click. I think we're good on any of the 3 of those. I'm gonna clean them up and swap the new seals from that injector to this one because these are all crusty and swolt.
Here, I saw it.
Well, as I was getting the manifold on and Jamie's working on the coolant over here, I looked down and there's a puddle of coolant where I'm about to lay underneath to bolt the manifold up, and it seems that our old radiator is leaking. So for some tragic twist of fate or whatever you want to call it, there is one for an 84 freaking Scirocco 20 minutes down the road. So we're gonna keep working. Nate Dogg is gonna run and grab one for us and maybe even get some lunch because I'm kind of hungry. And I can't shake the feeling like we've gotten so lucky. At some point that luck has to run out, and I don't know if that's gonna run out for our good luck or our bad luck. Okay, so clearly while Nate's gone, we're just trying to get as much done as we can. Jamie, Paul, and I just put the hood on, using witness marks to try and get it lined up as close as we could to how it was when it came off. We'll probably have to fine tune it, which means we gotta clean all this stuff out of the way. And we're really, the main concern I think for me is 2. One, the oil cap clearance. The other one, when we put the manifold back on, is gonna be the throttle body. Other than that, we're gonna be good because the coolant cap is factory, so we're good there. Paul's got a bunch of wiring tucked up underneath the cowl, battery in. I feel like this is a broken damn record of we are just waiting for parts of some kind that we shouldn't have had to wait for. I got the manifold back on and snugged. The fuel injectors are all on, vacuum lines and everything. Jamie put the throttle body on. Got our stage 5 race car intake on. I don't know that I have the ability to deal with any more problems. We also don't have the serpentine belt or the tensioner on, so we're not driving the water pump, and we don't have to worry about just exploding coolant out of that lower coolant hose. Firing. Better. We still have 0 miles on the car, so my confidence isn't insanely high just yet. We have a full exhaust on the car is why it's so quiet. It still has a cat, it still has a muffler on it, and it's necked down to like this big. So it'll make a little bit of Wookiee noise. It'll be interesting to see how muted the Wookiee sounds are. Okay, so we double checked our transmission fluid level to make sure that was good since we lost a bunch back at the shop. We got a misfire on cylinder 1, but we have 87 octane fuel. We have almost no fuel in the tank. That's the first injector in line, so maybe there's just some crud in the injector. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go blow it out. We're gonna go to the gas station, get a bunch of fresh, clean premium fuel in it, and
a few moments later.
We are gonna get the tow strap. We are going to hook it up to the back. We are going to drag it into the Gulf. and let it die a deserving death. Of course, I'm just kidding. So, depending on how far back you want to go to our last tragedy, we got it running. It was mostly happy. We had to raise the suspension up. We aligned it. We took it to the fuel station to put gas in it, and it's misfiring, dead miss on cylinder 1. Did an output test on the injectors, basically trying to do something that we could get information without any type of intrusion. And very much like our cylinder 6, cylinder 1 injector's not firing.
When we replaced our first junkyard injector, we used the best one that we had. For our second one, we really needed to test it and make sure that it worked. This one clicked and it actually sprayed a little bit of fuel, so I'm pretty optimistic.
We're gonna crank the engine and it should flash.
You're clear, Jamie. Yep.
There we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Way better.
Oh, thank God.
That's so much better.
Give it some rev.
Missing.
Oh!
That's the noise we want.
All right. Let me take this thing for a ride.
Nice. Good.
Feels good.
Feels really good.
800 million, thousand, trillion problems later, the car runs. It actually runs pretty well.
Very strong.
Obviously, a high-stress situation on our trek home, but it runs. I'm happy with how it runs. I think this is the best we're gonna get. I told Paul, dude, if any more problems, I'm done. I'm out. We're gonna push it off a cliff. The hero of this build is this man right here, Jamie, Elite Motorworks. No joke, dude. Thank you. Impossible, impossible, all the things without your help, and the shop and all the other things. It's been absolutely amazing, and I'm sorry that we have left your place a disaster.
It's okay, it gives me something to do later.
Okay, so Jamie's gonna put all his tools away and find that I have half of his tools in my tool bag. Now that the hard work is over and I break the antenna, the real journey begins. So we got a bunch of miles to go home.
We're gonna wake up tomorrow.
Go 6 a.m. push-off time tomorrow. We're out.
Now, I know what you're thinking, Charles. You and Paul spent days upon days putting this car together. Surely there's some stuff that we didn't get to see. And you're totally right. Remember that Paul and I actually did a much more in-depth series on his channel where you get to see even more of the goofy, crazy things that went on during this build. I'll, of course, link that up for you guys so you can check it out.
Okay, so obviously we left the hotel. We checked out early this morning, hit the road about 6 a.m. Had some really nice weather for a minute. Now it's pouring rain. Clearly worried about the Scirocco. Just under a quarter of the way home. Luckily, Scirocco's doing really, really good so far, and the Touareg as well. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel just yet. Okay, something I forgot to mention, and I can't believe that we haven't done anything with this yet. When I went to the junkyard to get those injectors, there was a cassette tape in the Jetta that I got the injectors out of. So of course, being that our car has a tape player, I had to take it. Yeah, original tape player. I think it's a Clarion. We're gonna see if it works. Paul, do the honors. It works! How is it that a junkyard tape and a 40-year-old tape player work?
My wife's Hispanic. Oh my God! Oh my God! Even though my wife's Hispanic, that's not music I'm interested in listening to.
Yeah, but I think it needs to stay with the car as part of the journey. Okay, we are 1 hour away from landing back at the shop DAP HQ. Paul, how you feeling?
I feel amazing.
He feels amazing for the first time.
I wouldn't say I feel amazing. I feel exhausted, but I feel excited that we haven't had any problems on the way home. Now, that may be...
Yeah, and jigs.
Yeah.
For the entire time since we've been in possession of this car, this might be the moments where I'm feeling the best about actually making it back, because like from the second we left ShopDap HQ, it's been crazy thing after crazy thing after crazy thing, to the point where I don't know how anyone would even believe that all this crap happens unless you have experience working on 40-year-old cars. Then you're like, oh yeah, of course all this stuff happened. Why else? What else would happen? From the fuel pump, the injectors, the coolant leaks, all of it. And we are now 1 hour, 73 miles away from completing our journey, at least our journey. I still have a 3-hour drive back to my house, so it's gonna be a late night for me, but even though we're both exhausted, it's been a crazy week. I think we can agree that 1, it was worth it. 2, there were points in time that we actually had a really good, fun time, and whether or not we would do it again is still yet to be seen. So I guess I'll see y'all back at the ShopDap shop. ShopDap HQ. I'll see you there. Okay, we made it somehow without the car blowing up, without getting ran off the road, and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. But luckily, the car's tucked in, safe and sound, and that's it. We did it. I am so thankful that it all went as good as it possibly could have. I can't believe we solved all those problems. It's amazing. The most important part, though, huge thank you to Jamie and the guys at his shop, especially Neil, for helping us out, because we could not have done it without him. And yeah, I'm gonna go get some coffee, and then I got a long ride home. Bye-bye.